Hey there guys, I'm SonicGhost, and welcome back to some more Let's Play Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask. Last time, we explored the innards of the moon here of Termina, and we have met up with kids wearing the remains of all 4 of the bosses we have fought up to this point in the game. We have went through their trials, traded away all of our masks, but by doing so, we got ourselves one final mask in the game, the Fierce Deity's Mask. With this mask, we will inherit its dark power, but it can only be used in boss rooms. We have one more fight left in us here, and it's against Majora himself, which counts as a boss room. One heads up about this mask's power, though, is that for the first time you collected here Majora's Mask, it will actually deactivate the power of your other transformation mask. We cannot use the Deku, Goron, or Zora forms in this fight, as the Fierce Deity Mask is taking priority. But there is one thing we could do at this point. If you are not ready for fighting Majora at this point in the game, you can go ahead and play yourself the Song of Time. This song will work here, and by doing so, you can reset back to the dawn of the first day and make preparations to fight Majora if you are not ready. We are ready to fight Majora, so we are not going to be doing this. It is time, though. We have had a long build-up and a long journey to get here, but it's finally time for us to save Termina and defeat the evil power deep inside of Majora's Mask. This is it, the man of the hour is ready to fight. It's Majora's Mask. Remember your battles. When something resistant would deflect your weapons, what was its backside usually like? That is a good point, Tattle. We can go ahead and attack the back of Majora, because that is the weak spot. But, since we can't use our transformation masks, our item inventory is a little limited, so we only have a handful of different weapons we can use. Mainly, we can use our ammo here from things like our bow, we can go ahead and use explosives, we can use a Great Fairy Sword, a multitude of different things here. Majora will sweep around the boss arena, trying to attack you on the ground level here. So what you want to do is use your shield all times to protect yourself. Wait for Majora to expose his back, and that is the time to strike. You can use a Great Spin attack when Majora is getting close to you as well, to go ahead and also expose his backside, but it's a little difficult to pull off. So we want to try to get behind Majora here. Doing so, we will go ahead and expose him. Use a jump attack from the Great Fairy Sword, and after doing a certain amount of damage, Majora will call for reinforcements. The remains of our 4 defeated bosses will come out ready to fight you. So now this is the perfect time to demonstrate the power of our new mask, the Fierce Deity's Mask. Putting this mask on, we will become a giant form of Link, basically Adult Link, and we can shoot laser beams out of our sword, which uses magic power. These laser beams are very, very powerful. So because of this, I'm only going to be using the power of Fierce Deity here to destroy the remains. Because at any point, we can go ahead and just target Majora here with the Fierce Deity Mask and stun him. So I feel this is a little too overpowered for this fight. Hence why we're going to just be using our human Link form here to fight. So I'm going to give Majora the benefit of the doubt here and let him get back up. So now we're ready to go ahead and fight him at full power. Majora, after a while, will go ahead and shoot you with his own beam, and that beam will do some serious damage, but you can reflect it back with the Mirror Shield, which will also stun Majora's Mask, as you've just seen. Gonna go ahead and use that beam attack once again. Hit him with it. Do some damage. And now let's see, can we get to his backside? Nope, it's gonna do a laser beam again. Go ahead, just shield that once again with our Mirror Shield. And that's that. Majora's Mask has been defeated. Wait a minute. The fight isn't over. Majora's Mask is evolving. Welcome, Phase 2 of the boss battle, Majora's Incarnation. As you can see, this guy, very fast, but he likes to dance. Remember your battles. When you fought things that ran around, didn't you battle them using your own body? Well, kind of. I kind of did things like tried to stun the boss in some way, like with a spin attack. That will definitely stun this guy. But you know what else will stun him? Him running into your sword slices. Yep, that'll definitely stun him. This guy is very weak to the great spin attack, as that normally will do enough to actually stun this guy. But there's another way we can stun this boss. Drop a bomb in the center of the arena. This may sound weird, but it actually stuns Majora. For some reason, his hitbox is shared with the center of the room, so dropping a bomb will stun him. But with that, that's Majora's incarnation down, but there's still one more form waiting for you in this battle. This here is Majora's Wrath, the strongest out of the three forms. Think about battles and weapons. When you had the chance before an enemy was about to attack, then you usually try shooting it. That is true. We can shoot this guy, and that will stun Majora. Now we can just do a lot of damage with our sword. Doing the great spin attack will definitely do a lot of damage here. Shooting with a light arrow does more damage as well than just shooting a normal arrow type. And now we'll just go ahead, tackle with a great spin once again, dealing up that damage. As we can see over here, there's an arrow on the ground. The pots in the very beginning can drop arrows and magic, but there's only 2 pots here, so be very careful of that usage. I'm gonna go ahead, shoot you once again with an arrow, stun him, do a jump attack here, and immediately follow up with a spin attack. Shoot once again, so he doesn't even get that attack out with his whips. His whips here can do a lot of damage, but with that, that is the end of Majora's Mask. We have defeated the evil Majora's Mask and have saved Termina. Ah, he's awake! You guys, you hadn't forgotten about me? You still thought of me as a friend? Did you save me? I thought they didn't want to be friends with me. But they haven't forgotten about me. Friends are a nice thing to have. Could you be my friend too? You have the same smell as a fairy kid who taught me that song in the woods. I know. Let's do something. Oh, so the evil has left the mask after all. Well now, I finally have it back. Since I am in the midst of my travels, I must bid you farewell. Shouldn't you be returning home as well? Whenever there is a meeting, a parting is sure to follow. However, that parting need not last forever. Whether a parting being forever or merely for a short time, that is up to you. With that, please excuse me. But, my, you sure managed to make quite a number of people happy. The masks you have are all filled with happiness. This is truly a good happiness. Well, both of us have gotten what we were after. So this is where you and I part ways, isn't it? You know, it was kind of fun. Well, it's almost time for the carnival to begin. So, why don't you just leave and go about your business? The rest of us have a carnival to go to. Link! Thank you. And with that heartfelt goodbye from Tattle, that concludes our journey through The Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask. Shame about having destroyed a moon to save Termina when you think about it. Sure, we may have saved the land from utter destruction, and also we got rid of the evil spirit inside of Majora's Mask, making it so that Mask will never be able to possess anyone else ever again. But we destroyed a moon in the process. Think about the tides, man. That's just gonna screw up a lot of stuff here in the land of Termina. But at this point, that's not Link's problem anymore. He's left Termina for good. He's back on his own quest, which is to find his long-lost friend, which we know at this point is Navi from Ocarina of Time. Even though Link's not here in Clocktown anymore, though, we can see everyone in the area celebrating now that they are safe and they can actually continue on with the Carnival of Time. So this is a nice little credits roll for this reason because we get some extra character development at the very end of our adventure. Now we get to see how everyone's stories will conclude here after the events of Majora's Mask. But yeah, at this point, there's really not much else to say besides thoughts on the whole playthrough because there was a lot to cover with this one. And in fact, I would say that Majora's Mask was probably the most ambitious project I have ever tackled here on this YouTube channel. Sure, I have done revisits of previous playthroughs I've done in the past, but they've been with remakes of games like with Mavic Hunter X for Mega Man X and Kirby Superstar Ultra for Kirby Superstar. I use later revisions of games to come back and revisit an old classic on the channel, but for the most part, it's really just been showing one version of the game. This one was a very different kind of playthrough, as we tackled many different versions of this game, mainly the original N64 version along with its many re-releases on the platform, and then the 3DS remake, which, as you see in the playthrough, it changed quite a lot. And in fact, out of the 3D Zelda remakes to date released, Majora's Mask 3D is the most different compared to the original, as it adds the most new content to the game compared to other Zelda remakes / ports that Nintendo has done. Because of this, it's kind of harder for me to recommend Majora's Mask 3D to certain types of people. If you've never played Majora's Mask before, I actually recommend people to start with the 3DS version nowadays, as it's a lot more beginner friendly, it has a lot of quality of life updates to it, and the biggest thing is just that some of the things that was a little more tedious or difficult here in the N64 version, they simplified and made easier in the 3DS version. But at the same time, they changed so many different things. At some points, Majora's Mask 3D actually feels almost like an entirely different game. It feels like, at times, it's not a remake of Majora's Mask, but more like a reimagining. So this is why I kind of find it hard to recommend the game to certain types of people. If you want to play Majora's Mask in its original form, I recommend you start with the N64 version of Majora's Mask, which, to be fair, nowadays is probably easier to come by, as this game was re-released on multiple different platforms, which included the Nintendo GameCube via the Zelda Collector's Edition, the Wii Virtual Console, and the Wii U Virtual Console as well. The 3DS version nowadays, a little bit harder to find, but you can still pick it up on the 3DS eShop, which is probably the way I would go nowadays, thanks to physical versions of 3DS games becoming a little bit harder to find. But I can recommend both versions of Majora's Mask for completely different reasons, and both versions of the games have their own strengths and weaknesses. This is why I chose, instead of just playing the 3DS version for this playthrough, it's best off actually showing both versions of the game, because as mentioned earlier, the 3DS version of Majora's Mask is almost an entirely different beast at times, hence why it was best to show two versions of the game at the same time, flip-flopping between two different versions when needed. And I hope you guys enjoyed this different perspective. I might do this again with other playthroughs in the future. It honestly just kind of depends on the game structure. This kind of game lent itself fantastically to jumping around between the different versions at all times, and it was honestly something that I was really concerned about at first when thinking about how to tackle Majora's Mask here for our 10-year anniversary special. At first, I was only going to be recording the N64 version here of Majora's Mask, but I got thinking about all those differences in the 3DS version, and I wanted to give it a shot. And nowadays, capturing 3DS footage is a lot easier than it was around the time the system came out over 10 years ago. So I'm glad I gave it a shot, and I'm glad I was able to revisit an old classic here on the channel. Majora's Mask was the very first Let's Play I did here on YouTube, and it got the ball rolling. Here I am 10 years later, and I'm still making Let's Play videos. I'm still making stuff here on YouTube, still enjoying every minute of it, and I honestly have come a long way. And if you go back to watch the original Majora's Mask playthrough, then you watch this revisited playthrough here, you will definitely see a difference between my commentary style, my gameplay, and even just how in general I present these videos to you. 10 years makes a big difference on a person, and I definitely feel like Majora's Mask, it definitely shows what 10 years has done to me. Made me wiser, made me a lot more informed, and I'm glad to be able to come back and revisit an old classic here on the YouTube channel. Well, with that, we are done with the N64 credits. Now it's time for some 3DS credits. I have to show off one more difference in the two different versions of the game somewhere, and of course, 3DS has extra credits after the main role from the N64 side. So, the only thing really left to talk about at this point is that I didn't really show off what was different with the boss fight here against Majora's Mask with the 3DS version. we've shown off all the differences in all the bosses up to this point between the N64 and 3DS version, and to be honest, they didn't do anything different with the Majora fight. It's basically one-to-one the exact same fight in the 3DS version as it is in the N64 version. The only major difference is that if you get the Fierce Deity mask, you are not locked into only using that transformation mask. You can use your other transformation masks in the fight as well. And they've changed how some things work with those said transformations. You can burrow down the fight using the Deku form, and if you do that, you can actually fly around the arena. You couldn't do this in the N64 version, you would only pop out of the ground, that was it. And also, in the N64 version, if you got hit with Majora's laser beam attack, it counted as a fire attribute, making you void out in the fight. In the 3DS version, if you get hit with that fire attack with the Deku or the Zora form, instead of voiding out like you normally would, nothing would really happen. You would take damage, but you can continue on fighting Majora. This is a nice big change that I'm definitely glad they made to this fight in the 3DS version, because making your way through a good chunk of Phase 1 and then forgetting about taking off either the Deku or Zora mask when you get shot with a laser, that's really painful to deal with, because then you gotta restart it from the very beginning. Doubly so if Majora blindsides you. So, big change there in the fight, but that's pretty much the only major change. Everything else plays the exact same. All three phases are the exact same, no extra new attacks, no extra ways of hitting the boss. It's pretty much one-to-one. The one thing they did not change, and I'm kind of shocked that they did change 4 other boss battles in Majora's Mask 3D. But at this point, we've pretty much looked at everything here in Majora's Mask, but there are some extra things that I want to go ahead and cover to wrap up this playthrough. So there will be a handful of bonus episodes coming out after this finale episode here, so we're not done with Majora's Mask just yet, but at this point, that is the main story of Majora's Mask concluded. With that, thank you guys for watching this series, I hope you all enjoyed, and I'll see you guys next time.